Everybody understood like what's the forward primer, and we were at reverse primer. So reverse primer class depends. So if you are asked to amplify the gene, right? So if you are asked to amplify the gene, then the gene starts with an initiation codon, which is ATG, and gene has to have a stop codon, which is usually TGA, TAG, or TAA. So in this case, you cannot just skip the stretches of A's. So in this case, you need to design a primer from the stop codon and from the initiation codon, for the simple reason that you need to amplify the gene. But many a times when we are just interested in checking whether the gene is present or not, so in this case you don't have to amplify the entire gene, but what you can do is you can amplify a small internal sequence, right? So in this case, for example, you can select a sequence something like this in this region, or a little bit behind as well, right? Likewise, you can select a region upstream here as well. So you need not design a PCR primer beginning from the initiation codon, because your interest is to just check whether the gene is present or absent. Is this making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll come back to the instrumentation in a second, but first to see what are the rules for designing a primer. So these are the rules. So first rule is that primer length should be 18 to 24, but then this covers a broader range, like you can go up to 15 to 30 nucleotide residues. But as I told you, in real life situations, sometimes when you have such long stretches, we can even go up to 40 or 45 bases as well, for the simple reason that you need to enhance the specificity, because either you have stretches of repeats or stretches of hairpins, something like this, right? So in such cases, just to enhance the specificity, you can design longer primers as well. Now, what is the upper limit for the longer primers? So the upper limit for the longer primers is actually 49 to 50, because the moment you cross 50, then as I told you in the last class, that primers are synthesized by chemical synthesis process. So the moment it crosses 50, then the yield, I mean the amount of the primer that will be delivered to you is going to drastically decrease, and the cost will also increase, because the moment it crosses 50, then the primer has to be purified by page, which is a labor intensive process. So therefore, usually for routine gene cloning, it is a good idea to design primers preferably in the range of 15 to 30, 18 to 24 like range. But then just to increase the specificity, you can go up to 40 to 45, but not more than that. The
Ma'am,
optimal, yes,
I had a question. Like you said that we use restriction enzymes when we don't know the sequence.
right. So this
So
is when we know the sequence. PCR is a technique when we know the sequence. PCR cannot be used when you do not know the sequence.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, huh. Because you are designing the primer, so you have to have the sequence information. So this PCR is used for isolating the gene when the sequence information is available, so that you can design specific primers for amplifying the gene.
Ma'am, but PCR is used for sequencing in sequencing also.
PCR is used in sequencing. No, PCR products are, uh, I mean, the sequence of PCR products can be determined. PCR is used for sequencing. I do not understand what are you trying to say. So PCR is used for amplification, and then the amplified product can be sequenced.
Okay, ma'am.
Right? So PCR is just an amplification technique. Whenever the concentrations are less, you need to amplify either for sequencing or for gene cloning or for diagnostic purposes or for strain identification or for genus level identification, right? So PCR can be used for discriminating two different strains. PCR can be used for RFLP as well. PCR can be used for fingerprinting techniques. But then the basic purpose of PCR is amplification. Once it is amplified, once your sample is amplified, then you can, it is your choice whether you want to subject it to sequencing or you want to subject it to restriction digestion. It is user's choice.
Okay, ma'am. So like if in first we don't know the sequence, then only the back we can amplify that a fragment only using the bacteria.
Huh? If we do not know the sequence, then how will you amplify?
Or using bacteria.
नहीं बैक्टीरिया को तो you can amplify 16s ribosomal RNA, but then okay, so okay, I got your point. So I'll explain you in a second. Let's go over. I will write it here, and I'll be explaining the class about like you are saying. I think is this the question? How to? Sorry, it's not typing. Okay, identify an unknown bacteria. Is this the question?
No, ma'am, I was basically saying about Sanger sequencing method, and in that bacteria is used for determining unknown sequence. So I was saying that like in that case, can we use PCR for producing multiple copies?
Yes, so I will explain you in a second. Huh? Let's first finish the primer, the rules for designing PCR primer. So the second rule is that the GC content should be in the range between 40 to 60%. That means don't go beyond 60 and don't go below 40. So the reason is because if you go beyond 60 class, so that means the GC content will be too high. So if the GC content will be too high, what will be the consequences if you see this figure? If the GC content of the primer will be too high, then what will be the consequences? What happened to my class?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So the question is, I can see Deepak and also. Deepak. So tell me, what will happen if we have high GC content of primer more than 60, and what will happen if we have low GC content of the primer?
Ma'am, I guess the GC bond have 3 hydrogen bonds and
Yes.
other one have 2.
Right.
Okay, so what will happen if the GC content is more than 60%? Then melting temperature of DNA will increase,
Yes.
and will result in over primer, because the primers stability, because they are stable to a certain limit. So then the PCR reaction would not work properly. So I guess that's why.
Yes, very good. And what will happen if it is low?
Uh, in that case, ma'am,
Using the same logic, the G double triple bond C and A double
ma'am,
bond.
the DNA will not be much stable. So so if we increase the temperature in PCR, then it can break into pieces. So I guess like the gene we want to select, that will break into pieces. So
So actually the primer, we are talking about the binding of primer, है ना? So if the primer has class low GC content, then the binding of the primer will not be, it will be loose, right? So
yes.
proper binding of the primer is also required for efficient extension. So therefore we need to have a proper melting temperature in the range of, so this has been experimentally demonstrated that it should have a GC content of 40 to 60%. Now the third point, the 3' end of the primer should contain a G or C in order to clamp the primer. So this rule says that when you are designing the primer, then ideally the 3' end of the primer should contain a G or a C. Again, using the same logic that there is a triple bond between G and C. So that ensures that the binding of primer is proper and it is not loose. So if you see in this sequence that we were trying to design, so in this case when we designed this primer, so here we went up to C, right? If we stop here, then this primer is okay, but it is not the best primer. So in this case, that the primer should have the 3' end of the primer should end with a G or a C. Okay. So the next rule says that the 3' end of a primer set, which includes a plus strand primer and a minus strand primer, should not be complementary to each other. Otherwise, that will result in formation of primer dimers, right? So primer dimers can happen when you have two primers which have some sequences which are complementary to each other. Primers should not be complementary one thing, and primer sequence should not contain hair loop structures. So for example, if you see here, these 5 times C and 5 times G, they can pair up and it can form a hairpin. Likewise, a stretch of A and a stretch of T can actually pair up and form a hairpin. Right, class? So such secondary structures are not advisable when we are designing PCR primers, because in this case the binding of the PCR primer will be affected because the primer itself will form either a primer dimer when it is complementary, or it will form a hairpin loop structure. Class, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, everybody, Deepak, Vishantan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So then the next point is optimal melting temperature. So the melting temperature of the primers can also be calculated, and I'll be showing you in a second. So the melting temperature of the primer should be between 52 to 58 degrees Celsius. Although the broad range is actually 45 to 65, but then the ideal range is between 52 to 58. So let's see how to calculate the melting temperature. So melting temperature Tm is calculated by, so this formula which is written at the bottom over here, 4 into G plus C plus 2 into A plus T. So this formula works only for primers which are in the range of 24 bases. The moment you cross the length, the moment the length increases, then this formula will not be applicable, and in that case there are lots of considerations, that formation of secondary structure, then concentrations of salt, so there are many other concentrations. So then there are, people have developed long equations to calculate the Tm, and then these days there are softwares, online softwares available. If you just press in Google like TM calculator for primers, you will find at least 10 different online tools which can give you the value. But manually, if you want to calculate, then this is the formula: 4 into G plus C plus 2 into A plus T. So let us try doing it for the primer that the class has designed. So try calculating for this one, and let's see what values are you getting. 4 into G plus C plus 2 into A plus T. Are you people doing it or no? Everyone is quiet. Either say yes or no.
Ma'am, can you please repeat what did you just say?
So that means you people are not listening to me.
Ma'am,
Okay.
we are calculating.
Ma'am, I guess it's 54 if I'm not wrong.
Okay. So Devpriya, I was asking you people to calculate the TM. Okay.
Okay.
So the TM for this primer is how much? Using the formula 4 into G plus C plus 2 into A plus D.
Yes, ma'am, it's 54.
50.
54 degrees Celsius.
Ma'am, 54.
54. Okay. So then as per rules, this is a good primer or bad primer?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, it is a good primer as it lies in the range itself.
Yes, it lies in the range itself, which we discussed that the TM should be 50 to 258 and the primer is ending with a G or C and the length of the primer is also within the range, right? So using these few rules and there is no hairpin loop, so then you can say that yes, this is a good primer that you people have designed. Okay. The next rule, I think Ratnesh, you were saying something.
Ma'am, I was saying like we have a 200 base pair sequence and sequence not DNA strand, and we want to amplify it. So for amplifying it, we have to bind the what is called a primer. So that primer will be 20 base pairs. So in next in next step, we will get 180 base pair sequence.
No. Arey, why you will get 180? Primer is also there, na?
Oh, okay, ma'am. Okay, understood.
Right. I'll be showing you using this figure, but let's move slowly. Let me finish with the rules first. Okay, so the next rule is the final TM for both the primers should differ by no more than 5 degrees. So then this rule says that when you are designing a forward and a reverse primer, you need to calculate the TM for individual primers, right? Like the way you calculated for the forward primer, in the same way you can calculate the TM for the reverse primer, right? And then, okay, maybe let's see. Who is going to design the reverse primer? Let's skip the A's because let's say that we are interested in just detecting the presence of gene. So start designing the primer from this end. Anybody in the class?
Ma'am, 3 prime, G.
No, hold on. So there is a
That would be
primers are always written from 5 prime to 3 prime, always, because the polymerase extends from 5 prime to 3 prime. You should never write primer sequence from 3 prime direction. Always write from 5 prime to 3 prime.
yes, ma'am. So G T C A T
One second.
from 5 prime to 3 prime.
GT.
Now where was that?
Acha, 1 second, I will highlight it.
Yes, ma'am. So G T C.
Hold on.
Yes.
Everybody in the class. See, okay.
So G T C A T C G T C A G G C T A T C G G T C T A G.
How long? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that.
So you need to calculate the length as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the length now. Okay, so now, so the good thing is that he has ended with a G class. Everybody noticed this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Bhavya?
Yes.
Okay, good. So then who is going to try calculating the TM for this one? Can you see the slides or no? Class, can you see the slides or no?
Yes, ma'am, we
We
can
can
see.
see
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, so what's the TM for this one?
Ma'am, I guess it's 74.
74. So is it a
yes.
good primer?
No.
So in this case, what you are going to do is reduce the length. Simple. Now see.
Ma'am, now it's 56 and I guess it is a good primer.
Okay. So now why it is a good primer, Arshi? First, because it's within the TM, right?
And second, because it ends with a G.
Right, it ends with a G. And third, because the last point, the last rule that we discussed.
Less than a 5-degree difference between the two.
Huh, Vishantan?
Ma'am, there's less than a 5-degree difference between
Right. So between forward and reverse primer, the difference is, so that's the sixth rule. The final TM for both primers should differ by no more than 5 degrees. So then it's a good primer pair. Okay. So the next rule, is it clear? Should we move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so the last rule is again the same that we have already discussed, that dinucleotide repeats like even 80, 80, 80 or GC, GC, GC or even single base runs should be avoided because they can cause slipping along the primed segment. So these should be avoided, right? So if you use these rules, then in fact the PCR amplification will work very efficiently and you will have good amplification. So then the next point is which Ratnesh was asking. Uh, so this part, the number of copies, I'll come back to it when we will be designing the PCR program. But let me first answer Ratnesh ka question right here. So the question is how PCR can be used to identify an unknown bacteria when the sequence is not known. So people say that you can do PCR and then you can do Sanger sequencing and then you will know the bacterial strain, what the bacterial strain is. You don't have to sequence the entire bacteria, right? So then the question is how does it work? So anybody or should I explain you?
Ma'am, I was saying unknown sequence, not bacteria.
Okay, how to identify an unknown?
And I was saying that for amplification only bacteria can be used, or PCR can also be used.
कुछ समझ नहीं आया. For amplification only bacteria can be used or PCR can be used. इसका
Ma'am, so like we have a DNA fragment sequence. I don't know the sequence. So what we do is we insert that sequence into bacteria, and bacteria grows, and and by as bacteria grows, we have a lot of sequence in that bacteria. We have a lot of clones of that sequence in that bacteria, and then we get the DNA and use it for Sanger sequencing. So that is in that case, bacteria is used for amplification, right? And in PCR can also be used for amplification. So I was saying that in the case we don't know the sequence, we can't use PCR for amplification.
No. So in this case, if you do not know the sequence, then also PCR can be used for amplification.
Yes, ma'am. My question was like in coronavirus, that is also.
पता नहीं रत्नेश क्या क्या पूछ रहे। कोरोना वायरस, अभी तो हम लोग बैक्टीरिया की बात कर रहे हैं। Don't
Ma'am,
confuse the
for SARS-CoV-2, there is RT-PCR test, right?
Ma'am, if you don't mind, we can probably go step by step and answer one question at a time.
हाँ, exactly. That's what. So I hope the rules for designing PCR primers are clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone? Class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then the question is how to identify an unknown sequence when the I have written this. Let me explain you how to identify an unknown bacterial strain. है ना? So in this case, the technique that is used is 16S ribosomal DNA sequencing. And in this case, the logic that is used is class that in the 16S ribosomal DNA, you have stretches of sequences which are conserved and then variable, right? And then you have like continuous regions which are in between conserved and in between variable, and this whole sequence is about 1.5 kb in length. ठीक. When we say conserved, so what's the difference between conserved and variable? So conserved sequence is the sequence. Conserved means it is present in almost all strains, in almost all bacteria, whether it is gram negative or gram positive or any type of bacteria. So conserved means it is unanimously present, and variable is the region which is responsible for strain specific differences. And therefore class, what we can do is we can design primers which are specific to conserved sequences. Take, listen to me carefully. The primers are specific to conserved sequences, and therefore even if the bacterial strain is unknown, right, even if it's a new isolate which is isolated from, let's say, Mars, or let's say from Antarctica, or let's say from sea, then still we can identify by simply PCRing, because in this case the primers that will be designed are going to be conserved. So these primers class are called as universal primers. Universal 16S primers. So the word universal means it will work. So universal primers for amplification of 16S ribosomal DNA sequences. So in this case, you can use the primer which is designed, which is specific to the conserved region, and then you do PCR, and then you can go ahead for sequencing, which we'll be discussing in the later classes, and thereby you will know the region which is called as variable region. In fact, you have a mix of variable and hyper variable regions throughout, right? And therefore still, even though sequence information is not there, we can determine the sequence. Is it clear, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Others? Devpriya, Deepak, Vishantan, where are my students?
Ma'am, it is clear.
Okay, good. Okay, so then the PCR reaction is set up in a tube which is like very small tiny tube, 0.2 ml capacity of the tubes are used, but the specific feature, so if you can see on the slide, this is a typical diagram of the PCR tubes. This is how they look. But then the main important feature of these PCR tubes is like the walls are very, very thin. The PCR tubes, the walls of the tubes are very, very thin as compared to the conventional microfuge or centrifuge tubes, for the simple reason because when you want to put it in a PCR reaction where you have to increase the temperature, then decrease the temperature, and then again increase and then again decrease. So in such cases, if the walls are thin, then the transfer of heat is efficient. Right? So therefore these thin walled PCR tubes are used. The equipment that is used is called as a thermal cycler. So the thermal cycler has a heating block. This is how it looks like. So this is exactly the same which is there in the UG lab. So this is the thermal cycler. Over here is the heating block onto which you can place your PCR tubes. Here you can set up the PCR program. So now let me tell you PCR program and then I'll stop there. We will not discuss in today's class. We'll discuss the variants of the PCR and the different polymerases in the next class. So when we do PCR program, right? So PCR program includes cycles of denaturation, annealing, and extension. Denaturation is the temperature where the DNA is denatured. So here the temperature that is used is around 95 degrees. Annealing temperature is usually Tm minus 5, right? So again in this case the annealing temperature usually should be in the range of 45 to 62 degrees Celsius depending upon the primer. Extension temperature is the temperature at which the polymerase is most active. So for example, Taq polymerase gives highest activity at 72 degrees Celsius. So therefore the extension temperature that is used is 72 degrees. So now if we do this, then this is one cycle. But in fact, in reality, we can go easily up to 30 cycles and then we can amplify the PCR product. So it's like after 30 cycles, the number of copies are going to be 2 to the power 30. So that is how amplification is achieved, right? So you have multiple cycles of denaturation, annealing and extension. Usually what is done is when we write a program, we usually give a hot start, and in this case what we do is the denaturation temperature. So there is a denaturation step of 95 degrees Celsius and this is given for 2 minutes, right? And then you have 95 degrees for 1 minute or sometimes 30 seconds. Annealing temperature again 1 minute to 30 seconds. Extension time, so this you listen to me carefully. So when we do extension class, so for every polymerase, the type of polymerase that you are using, the extension temperature will vary. So for example, for Taq polymerase, the extension is 1 kb per minute. So in this case, if you want to amplify a 1 kb fragment, then in this case the extension will be 1 minute, right? If you are amplifying a 500 base pair fragment, then the extension temperature can be 30 seconds, right? So ultimately these three steps are repeated for 30 cycles. And then we give a final extension at 72 degrees Celsius for up to 7 to 10 minutes. This final extension is given for any templates which are left, which are not extended completely, and then we set the program to hold at 4 degrees Celsius. So finally you keep it at 4 degrees Celsius. So people also leave PCR reactions overnight if there are like longer PCR amplicons expected. So in this case, you can keep the temperature at 4 degrees and then it will maintain at 4 degrees the thermal cycle. So ultimately such a program can result in good amplification. Okay, so hope from today's class I hope that designing the various rules of designing PCR primers are clear. Writing a PCR program is clear. Calculation of melting temperatures is clear. And I hope you can design PCR primers considering the melting temperature, considering the various rules, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, this timing 2 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, this we have to set in the PCR machine
Yes, yes, yes.
whenever we do.
Right, right. So I think I'll stop here. I will not discuss any further because then I thought, I mean, after the minors, we will discuss the variants of the PCR in terms of the type of polymerases. So we have Taq polymerase, we have various other polymerases, and under what conditions you need to use which polymerase, and how PCR can be used for mutating a gene, and what is mutation, what is mutagenesis. So I thought we will discuss all of these maybe after minors.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so then do you have any questions from the course? Otherwise, I'll close the meeting and then I will be emailing you the instructions for the minor exam as well as the schedule for the Viva, and then I'll allot the term paper topics during the Viva only. For those who have attended the classes, they got the topics allotted, and for the remaining students who are not coming, maybe we can allot them later. Uh, right? So I'll close the meeting then.
Yes, ma'am. Just one question. Like uh, mRNA in Roy Bitten's experiment, they used mRNA for determining the genes coding region and the non-coding region. So mRNA is made by how did they got that?
Hmm?